the elite players need to be the elite players every single night, and especially in playoffs. I think what happens with, in the Leafs in the last couple of years is just that their go-to guys maybe don't step up enough.
I'd love to get your take on where fighting is fitting in the league right now, present day, and do you think there should still be bruisers in the NHL?
Yeah, you know what? My position now has certainly changed from when I was playing. Obviously, I was a proponent of it fully. I was a fighter. I was an enforcer, and that was my livelihood, and that was how I made the NHL, was fighting. I look at it a lot differently now, and obviously really do care about the safety of the players and understanding that. And I knew it then. Getting punched in the face isn't exactly great for mental health or brain health. So I do appreciate their urgency to take care of players. I still do believe that there is a space for fighting. Maybe not the way I was in the league and my role in the league at the time. I was pretty one-dimensional. I guess, a lot of people would call me a goon, or something along the lines of that, one-dimensional. But I do think that it still has its role in the game, more spontaneous, more emotional type of situations. But I'm certainly not going to sit here and tell you that every team needs 2 or 3 heavyweights and that fighting should be, in every game. Let the emotion take care of itself, because hockey is a very emotional sport. And big guys fighting for a little black puck, there's a lot that goes into it, and guys do get heated. So when that, and it also does, I think this is a point I'd like to make, because a lot of the fans don't realize how much respect that a fight does actually breed. Because without it fully, there's a lot of times liberties being taken and guys taking advantage of other guys with some cheap shots and some blows to the head that, maybe wouldn't occur had there been some accountability in the game. Accountability meaning that, someone's going to step up and answer the bell. So I still think there's a place for it. I just don't think it will ever be like the way it was, or do I ever advocate for that type of hockey.
I'd love to talk about playoffs with you. Obviously, we're in the thick of it. Conference finals are set, and we're inching closer to finding out who's going to lift Lord Stanley's Cup. So I want to start in the East with Canes Panthers. Carolina is 8-2 in the postseason, heading into their third conference final. What do you think the secret is to this team's success?
You know what? They're a sneaky good team. They just play fast. They have guys that can just score at will almost. It just seems like they find a way to get it done. There's nothing overly sexy about them. You look at the Panthers, like a little different animal. They just got more. They seem to have more substance, a little more physical attributes with some bigger bodies. I just think Carolina lands up being, I don't want to say vanilla, because they're more than vanilla. But they play a great team game. They're coached great by Rod Brindamore, and the rest of the staff there. But they just find a way to score goals in timely situations, but also to I don't want to say play a safe game, but they just they know how to defend well. So I like their team. I'm not sure. Just looking at the Florida Panthers, they've been in it for a couple years now, winning the Stanley Cup last year. They're just built so well from top to bottom. They got the power forwards, they got the skill, they got the goaltending, and they seem to have a little bit more of an identity, and that's what I meant. The vanilla-ness maybe to Carolina, but they still somehow get the job done. I'm not going to dismiss them as as not being dangerous. But I just like the Florida Panthers, just the way they're built and their success in the past, and having coached a couple of those guys and knowing them, I just like Florida for the way they're built and just how they've evolved over the years.
We're going to head out west for the Stars Oilers again. Do you see things kind of ending the same way that they did last year, and that the Oilers are going to be heading to the finals?
I think so. I think so. Yeah. I mean, not just because I'm Canadian and rooting for a Canadian team. I like Edmonton. They're a great team to watch, and they've really come together as a team since Chris Knobloch's been there. I have nothing against Dallas. I was actually surprised that they beat Colorado, and that, obviously they beat the Jets there. But like they've turned it on at the right time. Their elite players are scoring, and they're finding a way to win. So it's not going to be an easy series. I predict it's going to be Edmonton, Florida once again, and I think the outcome is going to be on Edmonton side this year. I don't know if Florida's going to run out of juice, but Um, but I like Edmonton. I just like the way they're built. They're go-to guys. They're always stepping up and finding ways to step up even more. Even guys like Corey Perry, he's probably 40 now. Just finding a way to get it done. He's greasy. He plays the game hard. He finds a way to contribute always, and that's what you need from that veteran leadership. And not saying that Dallas is not doing that, but I just like Edmonton personally.
All right, I want to talk a little bit about Toronto. I know it's bad enough they lost in the playoffs. They're going to miss out on another opportunity to make it to the finals, but seeing their fans throwing the jerseys on the ice just in disgust. I don't know if frustration is the right word for how they're feeling, but what do you think this franchise needs to do to win this fan base back?
That's a great question. I think if anybody knew that answer, they'd be probably a billionaire. But I say it's some bit complicated. Like the Leaf fans are they're they're just waiting to just get over the hump, I guess you could say, right? They've been waiting for a long time. They've been patiently waiting. The team just can't seem to cross that to get over the hump. They can't get over that second round series, and they just seem to be snake bitten, I guess, if you will. Florida's a great team. You got to give them credit. But I think what the difference is what I see is that, when you talk about the elite players on the team, the elite players need to be the elite players every single night, and especially in playoffs. And I think what happens with, in the Leafs in the last couple of years is just that their go-to guys maybe don't step up enough, and they're not scoring enough, and they're not just being impact players like they need to be. And I think Florida does that collectively as a team. Went to Game 7. There's no dismissing the effort that Toronto put in, and I'm friendly with Craig Ruby, the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. I thought he would have maybe been that, that piece that would have helped them, get over the hump. But I think it's more complicated than just one person or one part of the team. Building a championship team isn't an easy thing to do, and winning Stanley Cup, they say, is the hardest trophy to win. So there's a lot of frustration along the way. Canadian teams, especially Toronto, they've been waiting a long time, and yeah, frustration is the word. There's probably some bigger words we could probably use, but yeah, like they want to win, just like anybody else does, just as much as the players do in that locker room. It's just as a Canadian myself, like it is frustrating because you'd love to see a Canadian team, find a way. Obviously got Edmonton in the West, but Toronto just seems to be stuck. Maybe took a step further this year, but they just seem to be kind of in the same holding pattern. So I like to think that this thing will sort itself out over time, just based on roster changes. Like they're trending in the right way. They're certainly adding the right pieces, and it's just such a hard league to win in, and it just gets so overly magnified in a city like Toronto that they're almost self-destructing there as fans. So it'll sort itself out over time, but there's no secret answer to that question, I don't think.
Absolutely. All right, last question for you. Can't let you go without talking about the Flyers. So I know that they just hired Rick Tocket to be their new head coach. What kind of impact do you see him having in Philly?
I think it's the best signing they could have made. I know Talk personally. He lives and breathes Flyers. I mean, he's the epitome of a Philadelphia Flyer. So for him to have been drafted by the Flyers, be the captain of the Flyers and have an incredible career in the orange and black, go on to coach, a few different teams, assistant coach, a few different stops, head coach, had some success, coach of the year 2 years ago. He's a teacher. He's a great coach. He'll be great for these young guys. They signed him 5 years, so he's going to be with the team, part of this rebuild, and then pass the rebuild as they become contenders to win a Stanley Cup. So I think they couldn't have found a better guy, not just coach but guy. Like Rick Tocchet is a solid human, and I think it's important in this day and age is coaching, is that you have a great human behind the bench in the locker room, because a lot of coaching is communication, and it's being personal, and it's being able to talk to guys when they're struggling, and beyond the game itself, like personal life stuff. Because when guys are struggling, a lot of times it's away from the rink. And when you have a coach that shows that they care, that they actually have a heart, it goes a long way, and the guys will fight for you. So they'll fight for, like, not fighting in that regards, but fight to win and play hard for Rick Tocchet. And I think the fans themselves know what kind of brand of hockey he's going to be coaching, and Flyer fans expect that. It's grit, it's resilience, and that's the way he played, and I believe that's the way he's gonna show up and lead the Flyers.